Hey guys, Andrew Shrout here in the sideboard. I'm here with Brad Nelson.
Hi.
Barles Narkley himself.
Barles Narkley it is.
You are one of the at-large competitors here in this tournament. We're here today to talk about your standard deck. You have chosen to play Sultai Reanimator.
Yes.
So let's jump right in. This is a deck that people have seen before, so we'll kind of talk about the cards really quickly. Courser and Caryatid, it's a green deck. Can't live home without them, right?
Yeah, they're the best cards any green deck could want, especially because the way that the Jeskai decks are designed right now, like Courser actually beats them up pretty well on just like the card advantage, like long games, like these Treasure Cruise decks. So Courser's pretty well positioned in the metagame.
Okay. And of course, Satyr Wayfinder, if you're trying to fill up your graveyard for Whips of Erebos and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, it triggers your Sidisi if it's in play. It helps like get a fresh look with Courser. It helps you find temples when you need that, and it develops your mana.
Yeah,
it helps cut. Like, the card is way better than I thought it would originally be when I saw it in Corset.
Yeah, actually, I remember an open about a month ago where you actually played Satyr Wayfinder in not even a Reanimator deck, just kind of to smooth your
I did have
mana.
2 cuts in the deck, though, and he got sacrificed to Butcher a lot.
Okay, all right, fair enough. This is kind of a multi-purpose all-star, the Satyr Wayfinder. All right, 4 Sidisi Brew Tyrant. This is kind of the marquee card of the deck, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely the engine. The deck plays much like we've seen all these Obs on Whip decks for a while, except for the fact that instead of leaning on power, you have synergy, and it's all based around Sidisi. Sidisi just runs the engine really well, allows you to get some zombies to be good against certain matchups where, like, a Rhino doesn't really do anything against, like, say, Heroic, because they're just going to be too big, but this guy will just make constant streams of different colored blockers, making God's Willing not just a win condition, as well as it's just a huge clock when it just starts rolling. Like, if you play it and get a guy and then they play something, you kill it, start attacking, you can get on the front foot really fast with Sidisi.
Okay. And then Farika, two Farikas, 2 Doom Egg Giants.
Yeah, this is the first time in the deck that we have like a metagame decision with the second Farika in the main deck, or even the first one where we're playing 2 in the main deck.
Okay.
The card is phenomenal in a lot of the matchups I expect this weekend, as opposed to, like, say, an open. Like, I don't expect there's going to be a lot of Pelucranos and like teamer decks or a ton of like Obs on mid-range itself. Where I think there's going to be like Heroic decks and Jeskai decks and other Whip decks, and hopefully no Obs on aggro decks. There might be one, but the card does this phenomenal job of controlling Whip mirrors, blocking Heroic creatures, forcing them to use their spells before combat, which lets you use their removal spell, so they have to have 2. And just holds the ground very well against the aggressive decks.
Sure. And then a Doom Egg Giant, I assume basically insurance against tokens.
Yeah, it's just good against like Hornet Queen, the Jeskai tokens deck. This was actually the last cut. The last change I made to my 150 for this weekend was cutting the 3rd Doom Egg Giant for a 24th land. I usually like lean on extra lands. Plus, I had to find a way to put an Urborg in the deck because it's like ridiculous not to play one. But the card is very good at what it's supposed to do, and it does such a good job at it that it's warping the metagame to where it's not as needed anymore.
Okay. All right, so it's just down to 2, and then a little bit of spice, some kind of reanimation effects.
I mean, you can't really go into a tournament with Sidisi without Soul of Innistrad in your deck. For the fact that you just put so many cards in your graveyard that you just need to have that in your main deck, like just as an out. And that's the reason that there's a 1 Reclamation Sage as well, just because that can get whipped back, or you can Soul of Innistrad it. Where this used to be a 1/3 of a card we're going to get to, but Soul of Innistrad does a great job at keeping the engine running way late in the game.
All right. And then Hornet Queen.
Yeah, actually trimmed down on Queens. I think Queen is not going to be the best card right now. It's losing a lot of favor since a lot of the Obs on mid-range decks are just like losing favor to other Obs on Whip decks, where this card's great against them because they don't really have an answer game 1. There's just not a lot of decks that don't have answers to this card, where you still have to play because it's powerful, but you don't have to lean on it anymore.
And then some kind of multi-purpose cards. Thoughtseize, Sultai Charm, Murder's Cut.
Yeah, I think Thoughtseize has never been better than this weekend.
Interesting.
It's not the best card against the Whip mirrors, but there's not a lot of Obs on mid-range where Thoughtseize is okay against, but it's all these top deck wars. That's usually how the matchup plays out. It's very good against anything Jeskai, anything Heroic. It's the best card you have against Heroic decks, just to take whatever they need most for the next couple turns. Like if it's a protection spell, if it's a Ordeal of Heliod, even if it's just their own threat. Like sometimes they just keep one threat hands and you can just steal that from them. So I wanted to play a Thoughtseize deck coming into the tournament, but the most important card in my deck is Sultai Charm. Starting after the invitation, I was like, I want to play Sultai Charm. That's the card that I want to play with.
Okay.
What's the best deck to run it?
All right. So what is it about Sultai Charm that really draws you in?
So there's only two types of things that you're scared of out of a deck like this that Downfall deals with that Sultai doesn't, which is Anafenza and Planeswalkers.
Okay.
And I don't think there's going to be a lot of Planeswalkers because this, or at least the bad ones. Like the Ashiok's out of Perilous Vault Blue-Black are tough, but like the Ashiok's out of Esper or the Elspeths out of Blue-White aren't that good against you because you just have this overwhelming board position late in the game. But in Whitmir's or Jeskai Ascendancy matchups, you want more enchantment removal in your main deck.
Okay.
And so like that's the huge thing. Also, most of the threats that I care about are monocolored, like dragons or Rabble Masters, most of the heroic creatures. Okay. Courser's actually more important in the Whitmir's than Rhinos, unless they like just have the whole stampede coming at you.
Sure. Okay, so basically you're playing this over Heroes Downfall, like because you are expecting to want enchantment removal almost as much as you want creature removal?
Yes, I definitely want more access in game one to deal with whips and Jeskai Ascendancy.
Okay. All right. 4 Murderous Cut.
Because it's like the best card.
It's a 1-mana removal
so
spell.
So good, yeah.
All right. And then the actual linchpin itself, tucked up here in the back, 3 Whip of Erebos.
Yeah, 3 whips. It's definitely the best card in the deck alongside Sidisi. Even whipping back to Sidisi, you get to see 6 cards and get 2 tokens sometimes, and fueling the Whip of Erebos lets you keep your life total high in a lot of different matchups. And definitely the card that you lean on the most with this deck. Like when you have a whip compared to when you don't is much different, or the biggest like change than any other card in the deck.
Okay. All right. We won't talk about the mana base too much.
There's lands. I do play them too.
Yeah, you play 24, including an Urborg. We covered that.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk a little about your preparation for this tournament. Because it's a small field. You know a lot of these guys. You can probably predict what a lot of them are going to be playing. So how much did that play into your deck choice?
I mean, it was a ton. Like, I mean, I definitely try to metagame for Grand Prix and usually play metagame decks. Like this is a 16-person event where a lot of the people are grinders and you know where their range is at. Some people can deviate. I definitely, like, my prediction for this tournament is that people will not a lot of people play whip decks. So I'm hoping, like, there's 2 ways that goes. One is people don't play whip because they think other people are going to attack the whip decks. And if people attack the whip decks, I'm just dead. But there's also a lot of people that just like blue-white and blue-white-red strategies where Sidisi is much better than Abzan against those. And I think Sidisi has a good matchup against the Abzan whip decks as well, if you build your deck correctly. So also the control players in this field aren't blue-black control players, they're like blue-white control players, which you also just want to be a Sidisi deck, because Sidisi whip just beats them. So that was my prediction. The downside is the risk that could happen is people just show up with Anafenza Abzan aggro decks, and I'm going to have a tougher tournament. But with, you know, last place being $500 and first place being $20,000, this is just the tournament that you just have to roll the dice, pick the highest variance deck, and just go with your original thought.
All right. So if there is a bad matchup, it is basically the card Anafenza the foremost.
Yes.
And you're just you just need to dodge it, I guess, is the plan.
Or kill it. I mean, I got removal, not a lot of removal,
Yeah.
but the strategy itself, like, they can just get on board way faster than you, and it's a tough matchup.
Okay. We'll go through the sideboard pretty quickly once we get past these basic lands.
I use John Avon full art
Who do we
on
have
Inge
here?
lands.
We do not have John Avon.
Yeah,
on the slide.
these are not my basics, by the way.
All right. So Ashiok and Kiora, I assume this is kind of a package?
No.
It's not? Okay.
No.
Right.
Ashiok, well, they do come in one matchup together.
Okay.
But Ashiok's there mostly for the green mirror matches. And it's very good against the other whip mirrors, and it's decent against Abzan midrange, but it's just a early threat that they have to downfall that can, you know, get some rhinos, get a lot of value. The Kioras are mostly for heroic.
Gotcha.
where
Okay.
it's a proactive way to force a creature not to be able to hurt me, and they have to God's Willing. Like you can't presence through that. Once it resolves, you can't Stubborn Denial. It just has to be God's Willing or Feat of Resistance.
Okay.
And if they use it on their turn, and I have a black and a green creature in play, and like I can build a board position including this card. Also, it's a great way to win races when they have this one guy they're all in on, and late in the game I can go Thoughtseize, take your God's Willing, play Cure, stop that guy from attacking me, hit you. Now your guy can't even deal damage, so it has to stay on defense. And I can keep targeting that same guy and then send my team, because Cure's ability to prevent damage both ways means that they can't kill my guys either.
Okay.
And then it also comes in against the other Obzon Whip Reanimator matchups, because after Sideboard the matchups get really wonky and they're like kind of controlling each other, kind of being aggressive.
Okay. 3 Disdainful Stroke.
Yeah, this is for Jeskai tokens, control decks, and Obzon.
Okay.
Obzon midrange and whip decks.
All right. 1 Drown in Sorrow, 3 Bowblight.
Yeah, it's a split that took me a while to get to. I wanted more removal against Heroic and any Obzon aggro decks that show up, but Drown in Sorrow is better against tokens.
Sure.
I didn't want to go in this tournament without a Drown in Sorrow, because I need them to, like, if I make day 2 or if they get the information, whatever, I need them to respect the card.
Okay.
But at the same time, Bioblight is just better in the other matchups. But it's still a good card in those matchups, because sometimes they just go like raise the alarm, end of turn, untap, combo you out with like a bunch of spells and attack you with 6/6s. So you can just like stop it right away with an instant speed removal spell on both tokens.
Okay.
So definitely loved the Willy Idol split here, and ended up continue playing it.
Okay. And rounding out the sideboard, 2 Heroes Downfall and 1 Reclamation.
Yeah, I didn't come without a way to kill heroes. There's definitely going to be a couple in this event.
Right.
I would roughly say 15 other ones.
Sure. Sweet. I like it. I like
yeah,
it.
and it's just needed. You need Anafenza Hate. I actually didn't want to play him, and Willy Idol was also someone that helped me with this tournament a lot. Like I had a background of Jerry, Willy, Todd, and Raptor helping me with my deck decisions.
That's quite the pit crew there.
I did have a good pit crew, and Willy was like, you cannot go into this tournament without downfalls in your sideboard. I'm like, what if they're Dark Patrol? And he's like, stop being an idiot. And he's like, just play the card that can kill walkers, that can kill Anafenza. Make sure you have more answers to it, because those are your worst matchups, but he liked the deck choice with the expected metagame.
Okay. All right. Certainly seems like you're well prepared, and it seems like a strong choice.
I feel awful. I feel like I'm just going to do miserable, but that's just a weird, like, I want to keep tweaking my deck, and I can't.
I think that's a normal feeling before a tournament, right? In any case, thanks for coming in and talking with me about it, and good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Stick around. We've got plenty more coverage coming of the Players' Championship here in Roanoke.